Good morning, everyone, on this blustery Manitoba morning. On behalf of Nicole Chabot, Chair of the Board of Directors of the MHCA and the Board of Directors, it's a pleasure to welcome you to our annual awards presentation, to be then followed by our annual general meeting. My name is Chris Lawrence, and as president of the association, I'm pleased to be your host. We apologize for the delay in start. We are having some technical difficulties in enabling some people to log in. Before we do begin, the MHCA acknowledges it operates on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We recognize and respect the treaties that were made in this territory and the territories where our industry operates. This morning's presentation, as you know, is via webinar, which means that other than presenters, our attendees are not visible on the screen. I'm pleased to say that we have a very good showing of members and guests viewing this morning, and so I thank each and every one of you for making the effort to participate and or present. While our guest presenters will be more formally introduced, I do wish to acknowledge that joining us this morning are Premier of Manitoba, the Honorable Heather Stephenson, the Honorable Ron Schuler, Minister of Manitoba Infrastructure, Sarah Thiele, Deputy Minister, Manitoba Infrastructure, Ray Bassett, Chair of the Canadian Construction Association, Mary Van Buren, President of the Canadian Construction Association, and Rod Gilbert, Vice President, Public Affairs of the Canadian Construction Association. Thank you to each of you for joining us, and a welcome. If you are a member and you have a question for any of our presenters this morning, please use the question icon, type your question, and we'll be answering as many as time permits. This webinar is being recorded and will be publicly available on the MHCA website. And please note that at the end of the presentation and awards, there will be a brief pause to enable the AGM to convene, at which only MHCA members may participate. And a reminder as well that the 21 annual report is posted on the association website under publications, and members received an email to that effect. Before we begin, I would like to thank the sponsors of this morning's awards breakfast, Michael Byrne from Aon Reed Stenhouse and Alex Robinson from Graham Construction. A very sincere thanks to each of you for your support. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Nicole Chabot, Chair of the MHCA Board of Directors. Nicole?
Good morning, Chris, and thank you so much. Thank you to everyone participating today. I'm going to start with the MHCA's 2022 priorities and looking forward. Advocacy is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a saying that we hear often around the boardroom table at Manitoba Heavy. And it's also a phrase that is useful to help keep in perspective the pace and progress of priority files. And with that in mind, I'm happy to report that 2021 has been a year of real tangible progress. I would like to begin outlining MHCA's 2022 priorities by noting one of our key achievements. And I'm pleased to say we're seeing results from our advocacy for long-term strategic infrastructure investment plans. Manitoba Infrastructure has acknowledged the benefit of preparing and publicly presenting multi-year budgets, starting with a 3-year highways capital program in the next budget and moving towards 5-year programs. It's important to note this now as I offer you my looking ahead perspectives, because it sets out some particularly important priorities for 2022. We have for years repeatedly pressed government on our own, and more recently with the voices of leading business groups, to be strategic in how it plans its annual and forecasted investment in core and trade enabling infrastructure to ensure we see the greatest return to our GDP. The economic recovery of our municipalities, province, and country depend largely on strategic infrastructure investment. Making best use of public dollars to support local businesses and generate revenues to our governments to support core public services and social and cultural programs. With the province's acknowledgement of the value of multi-year highways budgets, MHCA will press for timely adoption of an annual and 5-year highways capital program, ensuring that MI firmly stands behind budget set, budget spent, supported by a rolling forward program. Release of the infrastructure investment deficit for highways and bridges, which we last understood to be approximately $9 billion, a provincial asset management plan, so Manitobans can see for themselves the condition and the needs of our transportation network. And with that, a sustainable funding strategy to address those needs within a reasonable timeframe. These are lead items among the priorities for 2022, all of which the MHCA considers integral to the goal of economic recovery, growth, and prosperity. Since Manitoba Heavy Construction Association's founding in 1943, our advocacy has been anchored by the imperative to grow the economy as the enabler of everything else. And the wisdom of that principle has been proven by the test of time. In keeping with that, the MHCA will intensify its advocacy at the City of Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, and rural municipalities to support strategic infrastructure investment strategies that can deliver the highest return on investment to the GDP. At the City of Winnipeg, the MHCA will press to ensure that the integrity of the financing plan for local and regional street renewal is not weakened by calls to use the revenues raised by the dedicated 2% annual tax for other purposes. In 2019, Council approved bridges for funding from the local and regional renewal reserves, and we are now seeing calls for active transportation projects to also draw from that same fund. The MHCA supports the construction and maintenance of all modes of transportation. Bridges, rapid transit, bicycle facilities, all deserve attention and priority. But the dedicated 2% tax financing plan for street renewal was never intended to be the solution to all investment deficit problems. As a result, we will call upon City Council in preparation for the 2023 budget deliberations to task a stakeholder group resourced by Public Works and the Office of Economic Development and Growth to recommend a strategic infrastructure plan that addresses the city's broad and specific objectives, identifies development lands where growth can occur and the necessary infrastructure improvements, and prioritizes projects holding the best ROI to GDP and external funding partners for the plan's success. Concurrently, direct the Public Works Department to update the asset and needs of the transportation infrastructure, set out financing strategy options to meet the needs of local and regional street renewal, bridges, and active transportation facilities in a reasonable timeframe. And enable council to begin a public discussion on the resources and revenues required for a long-term sustainable funding plan for infrastructure, as municipalities do not have the taxation tools they need to access adequate revenue resources. The final point underscores why the MHCA will continue to advocate for better sharing of costs in infrastructure funding agreements among the 3 levels of government to help municipalities pay not just for the construction of infrastructure, but also its maintenance. On that point, the MHCA in 2022 will continue to advocate for a new fiscal deal in which the province and the federal government assist municipalities with new taxation tools, the sharing of growth taxes, and related options. Moving to a regional focus, you will see in 2022, the MHCA's advocacy campaign for a Western Canada Trade Gateways and Corridors initiative gather strength through our provincial, regional, and national efforts with business and stakeholder partners. This will go hand in hand with pressing Ottawa for a significant recapitalization of the National Trade Corridors Fund. Other areas of advocacy that Manitoba Heavy Construction Association will focus on include restructuring delivery of the quarry rehabilitation program, supporting truth and reconciliation efforts through engagement in the Winnipeg Indigenous Accord and through industry initiatives to attract, train, and retain new workers from Indigenous and equity groups. Collaborating as members of the Manitoba Construction Sector Council to ensure training gaps are addressed. Supporting safe work practices by efficiently and strategically managing delivery of the MHCA Work Safely program. Working with the RM of Springfield in its development of the zoning bylaw and quarry operations bylaw. Engaging in discussion with the City of Winnipeg about the combined sewer outflow program. Working with the province and Manitoba Infrastructure to ensure funding of the Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin outlets materializes and that the project is scoped and scheduled to enable competitive bidding by Manitoba companies. Monitoring Manitoba infrastructure budgets to ensure the commitment of no less than $500 million is invested in Manitoba's highway systems annually with a view to its increase. Pushing each level of government for sustainable, predictable, and incremental infrastructure budgets. And working collaboratively as members of the City of Winnipeg Social Procurement Working Group to emerge with a social procurement policy that works for the targeted equity groups, the public, and industry. It's an ambitious agenda, but we are certain of the value of the advocacy and dedicated to the goals. We're encouraged by the growing support for initiatives that have been part of our industry's advocacy efforts for years. And that is testament to our founding vision that what we do is critical to protecting our communities and for laying down the road for economic growth and future prosperity that benefits all Manitobans. Finally, I want to thank all of you who have supported the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association, and especially my colleagues on the board of directors. It is a pleasure working with you all. And I have no doubt that 2022 will present new issues, and I know we are up to the challenge. Thank you. And it is now my honor and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning, Manitoba's first woman premier, the Honorable Heather Stefanson. Premier Heather Stefanson was elected as the MLA for Tuxedo in 2000 and re-elected in 2003, 2007, 2011, 2016, and 2019. An investment advisor, Premier Stefanson earned her Bachelor of Arts from the University of Western Ontario before completing her final financial education at the Canadian Securities Institute. She also worked as an advisor in the offices of the Prime Minister, the Federal Minister of Agriculture, and the Provincial Minister of Education. She and her husband, Jason, have 2 children. Manitoba Heavy Construction Association members and guests, please welcome our keynote speaker, the Premier of Manitoba, the Honorable Heather Stefanson.
Thanks very much, Nicole. Just wanted to make sure you can hear me okay and see me okay. Great. Okay, thanks very much. And thanks for that warm welcome. It's great to be here with all of you this morning at the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association award presentation and AGM. And I wish you well throughout your deliberations at your AGM today, and just congratulate all those award recipients today. I'm honored to be joined this morning by my colleague, the Minister of Infrastructure, Ron Schuler, who I know you all know well, and I know that he will do a great job answering all the questions for us today. Anyway, but great to be with you this morning. And I just wanted to start off by, I think, recognizing the devastating impacts of the landslides out in BC, and obviously the impact that that is having on infrastructure within that province. And I think it makes us realize, obviously, the importance of infrastructure in our economy. I know that what is happening out in BC will not just have devastating impacts on the economic situation in BC, but will have significant impacts on all of us, certainly in Western Canada and indeed across our country. And so our thoughts and prayers go to all of those individuals in BC who are being impacted by all of the flooding and everything right now. And obviously, this is something that we're going to have to work together as provinces to ensure that we can get out of this and help our neighbors out in BC get through this devastating time. I have spoken to John Horgan as well, and have been on the Council of Federation meetings and the First Ministers meetings this week in discussion about some of these issues. And obviously, it's something we're going to have to monitor very closely, and certainly we'll be looking to the MHCA to work collaboratively with you and your organization and your members to ensure that we get through this together. So I know I speak for my colleagues in saying that we value and respect the open dialogue with Manitoba Heavy Construction Association, and I look forward to building on our relationship in the months and years ahead. Thank you to all of you for your dedication of the dedication of the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association and your industry to the province of Manitoba. We know you have an incredible impact on our economy here, and that does not go unnoticed. You, of course, are all leaders and partners in delivering critical infrastructure to Manitobans, and we are all grateful for the excellent work that you do for our province. Your perspectives on the needs of industry and the effects of government decisions on those needs are important and help us to continually improve the services we provide for all Manitobans. The construction industry is instrumental in supporting the province as we move forward through this pandemic, work toward economic recovery, and address the critical infrastructure deficit that exists in Manitoba. I'd like to acknowledge that despite the circumstances and challenges brought on by COVID-19, Manitoba's construction companies have remained professional, eager to work, and committed to take on new projects throughout the pandemic. And for that, we thank you very much. Manitoba's strategic infrastructure plan has been developed to improve provincial infrastructure, safeguard the well-being of Manitobans and their communities, and help ramp up the construction industry to create meaningful employment opportunities for Manitobans now and well into the future. We recognize that strategic infrastructure investment is fundamental to economic growth and recovery to our province. We remain committed to investing in infrastructure with over $2.1 billion in strategic infrastructure commitments in this past year's budget. Investments include over $500 million in highways and airport infrastructure capital through Manitoba Infrastructure and Restart Manitoba, nearly $300 million in health infrastructure, and nearly $70 million in housing. We are also spending over $415 million on education-related infrastructure, including new schools. And I know we have also committed through health more than $815 million to health infrastructure as well throughout the province of Manitoba. We're building and improving roads, bridges, highways, along with schools and hospital infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure, and all of this goes hand in hand with economic development and job creation, and better prepares us for this province for a post-pandemic economic recovery, and will prepare us for a better economy in the future. To this end, Manitoba Infrastructure has been given a mandate to develop multi-year strategic capital plans to further support the heavy construction industry planning. We know that this is critical to our collective success. Partnerships, collaboration, and listening are foundational to the way we achieve outcomes in Manitoba. Capital plans are developed considering provincial prioritization goals, outcome-based planning, and a focus on increased stakeholder consultation with the public. Manitoba Infrastructure has been one of the lead users of the Engage MB platform as a venue during the COVID-19 pandemic, an excellent use of this platform and something I hope to see continue into the future. Consultation with key parties such as Manitoba Heavy Construction Association, Association of Manitoba Municipalities, Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, and Manitoba Trucking Association is vital, and we appreciate your support for the long-term priorities for Manitoba's future. Before I conclude, I'd like to congratulate each of this year's Heavy Construction Award winners. This award is well-deserved to each and every one of you. And so on behalf of the province of Manitoba, I thank you for your dedication, for your hard work to connect and protect all Manitobans. Congratulations to each and every one of you today. I wish you all the very best in your deliberations through your AGM. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this AGM today.
Thank you very much, Premier Stephenson. We sincerely appreciate your address today and wish you and your government success as you address not only the challenges, but the opportunities that come before this province under your stewardship. We very much applaud your focus on growing the economy and the role that planned strategic investment in infrastructure plays in that strategy as one of the fiscal healthcare remedies with which to enable the funding of healthcare, education, climate action, and related programs which ultimately shape the quality of life that Manitobans expect and enjoy. I want to acknowledge as well that your scheduling conflicts prevent a Q&A. That happens, we understand, but we'll be able to put those questions to Minister Schuler. Again, a very sincere thanks, our best wishes, and we look forward to continuing and building upon an already existing very good relationship with you and your government in the years ahead. So thank you very much, Madam Premier.
Thanks very much, Chris, and to everyone. I really appreciate it. And of course, I look forward to future opportunities where we'll have that dialogue and that Q&A moving forward. So thanks very much for this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward, I'm also happy to acknowledge that we have quite a number of the City of Winnipeg councillors joining us this morning. I'm very pleased that they've made the time to do that. So welcome to each and every one of you. I would, as part of this program now, like to turn your attention to reviewing some of the accomplishments and challenges of the past year. As has been stated, we have always placed economic growth and prosperity at the top of all of our advocacy activities. And the past 2 years have shown why that must continue to be a #1 priority for each and every level of government. We have seen what havoc a global health emergency can wreak upon even the strongest of economies. Imagine the toll had our governments not been tuned into pressing fiscal realities and held to task by leading business groups, including ours. I am pleased to report that this year, true to our focus on economic health and growth, we saw real progress on a high-profile advocacy file that is very much about strengthening budget programs, their values, and returns on investment. As noted by our chair, our long-standing call for MI to adopt a long-term infrastructure investment plan has been met with real success. And as you heard the Premier this morning, there will be a 3-year budget, and we hope that we can move in the very near future to 5-year budgets. And that's good for everyone, the taxpayer, the department, the provincial treasury, and certainly for industry. When our industry has the benefit of insight into what investment priorities in the future are, we can plan better. We can look at the necessary capital acquisitions. We can align with suppliers, and we can give our workers a sense of security of predictable, sustainable employment. That makes for stronger pricing in the market, which returns higher value for budgeted programs. 2021 was the second of 3 years of MI commitment to budgeting and flowing no less than $500 million annually for highways capital, including funds identified in the Economic Recovery Plan. It is clear, though, that we must ensure the provincial government makes good on its other commitment, which is to carry over any unexpended dollars to successive budgets. In 2021, the budget was underexpended by some 60 million, of which 49 million was saved due to competitive industry bidding. While $11 million in additional projects were tendered as a result of that saving, only 22.9 million of the under expenditure was carried into the 2021-22 highways capital budget. We have already begun discussions with the Premier's office on this important topic area. A budget set must be a budget spent. And with a highway and roads investment deficit in the vicinity of $9 billion, every available dollar must be mustered to addressing that challenge. At the municipal level, we continued our work to see strategic infrastructure planning become realities. For years, our industry has pressed for such strategies to sustainably fund the needs of municipal streets, roads, bridges, and water and wastewater infrastructure. And our call has been taken up by others in the business and related stakeholder communities. We were encouraged, for example, to see that the Urban Development Institute publicly called on Winnipeg to set out such a strategy, including identifying where growth in Winnipeg can occur and plotting the appropriate infrastructure investments to support that growth. It's budget time for City of Winnipeg, and we are meeting with individual councillors, including those within the budget working group. There is continued pressure on council to use the revenue reserves dedicated to annual local and regional streets to fund other programs. The message from our industry is clear. We support the ability of all residents to get to where they need to go by their chosen mode of transportation, including public transit, bicycle lanes, active transportation facilities. But funding those purposes cannot erode the capacity of the local and regional streets reserve to address a priority complaint of Winnipeggers, which continues to be the condition of their streets. In discussions with councillors and in submissions to the budget review process now before committee, we stress that what the city needs is to know what the condition of its streets, bridges, and other core infrastructure is. With that in hand, Winnipeg then needs a sustainable infrastructure investment strategy that is informed by the condition of the asset, with a reasonable timeline to address it and a funding plan adequate to the challenge. Other work this year includes working with the RM of Springfield on its draft zoning bylaw to ensure appropriate setbacks from property lines and applications for development in permitted uses do not require development agreements, and our discussions leave us hopeful. We have ongoing discussions with the WCB on the composition of the new Prevention Advisory Council, and those have gone well, and we anticipate and expect very good relations with WCB and Safe Work Manitoba to continue. The LSMO Outlet Channel project is proceeding, not nearly as fast as we had hoped, but discussions with Ottawa are progressing and federal approval and licenses are anticipated soon. We have made good progress in talks with MI to ensure that the scope, timing, and scheduling of the projects allow for competitive bids by Manitoba companies. And on a regional and national level, we have worked well with the Western Canada Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association, the Canadian Construction Association, and other national and regional stakeholder partners to collectively advocate for significant investment in trade corridors, and notably to champion a Western Canada trade gateway and corridor initiative. We are encouraged by the level of interest and the activities now planned and in place around this initiative. I note importantly that the above serves only to highlight the vast array of topics addressed, to which many more are added as the year emerges. It is important for me to conclude my remarks with this acknowledgement. None of the achievements, nor any of the plans looking forward mean anything without principled leadership from successive chairs and boards of directors, supported by committed, robust membership. I have witnessed that principled collaborative leadership now for 30 years as your president, having started with the MHCA on October 1, 1991. For that collective investment in success, in principle and support, I am very sincerely grateful, and I thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I introduce our next guest this morning, I would like to say that Manitoba Infrastructure is a key ministry for Manitoba's economy and our industry. We often say and happily repeat that MI is the most important ministry of government. Its capital programs most directly influence the public's ROI to GDP from investment in infrastructure, particularly trade supporting infrastructure. Its capital programs platform the economy upon which we move people to jobs and products to and from market. It is the ministry which facilitates final delivery of product by truck, having first likely moved by rail, ship, or air. From our perspective then, MI investment in our transportation system is essential to sustaining existing and accelerating new economic growth. And we have a very well-established relationship both with the Honorable Ron Schuler, who as minister has championed many of these initiatives and improvements and directions as the minister, and with Sarah Teely, who as the deputy minister professionally leads her executive team and department. And we thank each of them for a collaborative and respectful relationship. And so it is with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce the Honorable Ron Schuler, Minister of Manitoba Infrastructure, as our next presenter. Minister Schuler was elected as MLA for St. Paul in '99 and re-elected in '03, '07, '11, '16, and then again in the new constituency of Springfield-Richot in 2019. Minister Schuler is a graduate of the University of Manitoba with a degree in international relations and has served as trustee in the River East School Division. An entrepreneur, former small business owner, and community volunteer, he is very well known to our industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with pleasure that I welcome the Honorable Ron Schuler, Minister, Manitoba Infrastructure. Minister.
Well, good morning. And first of all, good morning to our chair, Madame Chabot. I'd like to point out that out of all the chairs that I've been able to work with, she is by far my favorite. I have to say that. And to you, President Chris Lawrence, out of all the presidents I've worked with, especially the last guy, you are by far my favorite president that I've ever been able to work with. So I just wanted to put both of those out there. And it's great to be here this morning. Although the least you could have done is sent me at least a box of donuts, something that I'd breakfast with you with, but hopefully we can at some point in time get back together and do these in person, where then the entire room can try and lobby me on one of the projects. I miss those, funny how those things now, you really miss them, eh? I miss seeing all of you and having chats with you about what's going on. So we haven't just sat by idly. And over the past several years, Manitoba Infrastructure has been working diligently to transform our service delivery model to find efficiencies and to improve our outcomes. I want to thank your board, and your president for all the input in that. You've been a really good partner in all of this. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that Manitoba Infrastructure is the department of the day after tomorrow. It's the department of hope. We have to look at a time beyond COVID, and we believe that we are well positioned for that. So as a result, we implemented a service delivery modernization review and developed several strategies that not only enhanced services delivered to Manitobans, but also contributed to the overall cooperation with the department's key stakeholders, including the heavy construction industry. Last year, we introduced Infrastructure Capital Projects, a new division focusing on innovative approaches in developing, managing, and reporting on MI's capital planning projects. ICP continues to cooperate with the heavy construction stakeholders to develop the best bidding, project management, and work practices, as well as satisfying outcomes for Manitobans. As Premier Stephenson noted, public engagement is the vital part of provincial projects. In 2021, ICP led 2 Engage Manitoba public engagements to plan and prioritize highway projects in Manitoba. In fact, we received an international award for our Engage Manitoba approach. I think out of the entire government, we've been really, really good at using Engage Manitoba. Started right when COVID hit, and we did the South Perimeter Safety Review and then the functional study and going on from there. So we have really used Engage Manitoba, and I think it's something we should continue with. I've always said that we have these open houses where we get 50 people, of which half come for the coffee and donuts, and the other half come to hang the minister. So these Engage Manitoba ones, we get up to 1,200 people, and I don't know, for me, it seems to work. So included in all these projects is the engagement on the trade and commerce grid, which I'm going to reference later, allowing us to gather feedback from municipalities and industries that will contribute to build and maintain a robust highway network to support the economy through access to interprovincial and international markets. The proposed grid includes more than 7,000 kilometers of provincial roads that we would want to get to an RTAC standard, with nearly 6,000 of those 7 of the grid already supporting Manitoba's heaviest truckloads. When completed, the grid of trade and commerce routes will represent 36.5% of Manitoba's all-weather provincial road network. So to be clear, it shouldn't matter where you live in the province. If you want to take your crop or whatever you grow or whatever you have access to, and you want to develop it into something and market it to the world, we want to provide for you a road system that allows you to get onto an RTAC road, get onto our economic corridor, which is number 175 in the perimeter, and move it on to international markets. I would like to point out 80% of what we produce as Manitobans, we export. There's no way we can consume everything that we produce, whether agriculture or otherwise. So we do need a really good highway system. And we believe that the RTAC network is going to be instrumental in growing the economy as we get beyond COVID. We also recently concluded the strategic investment categories online engagement. MI proposed 4 strategic investment categories to consistently plan and prioritize projects based on what is important to Manitobans. These categories provide the foundation for an infrastructure strategy and short-term infrastructure investment planning. In June of this year, MI announced the highway regional consolidation, in which department restructuring went from 5 to 3 regional offices. And to be very clear, we closed no yards, we closed no buildings, and nobody was laid off. We did it all by using the resources we have, and there were some retirements, but basically nobody ever lost a job because of the reorganization, to be very clear. The 3 regions are now referred to as Capital Region out of Steinbach, Western Region out of Brandon, and Northern Region out of Dauphin. Improvements in technology make it easier to manage work over distances and to move between offices to serve project needs. The day where you have to go in, fill out a form, hand it in, and so on and so forth, basically that's over, and we should be moving to as much as we can online. The 3-region model brings engineering, technical, and administrative resources together to improve services, delivery, reduce costs, and create efficiency. Over the summer and fall, MI has successfully made adjustments to make this transition smooth for suppliers and stakeholders that had to switch to a new point of contact. In spring, MI launched Moves, moving oversized and overweight vehicles efficiently and safely. And yes, that spells Moves. A new web-based automated routing and permitting system with the ability to self-issue motor carrier permits. Moves allow permits to be purchased easily online, reduces the red tape, and keeps the industry moving forward in innovative ways. More importantly, it is available 24 hours, 7 days a week, and allows carriers to create a profile, load fleet information, and use other custom configurations. And this builds onto the Engage Manitoba, which is again also 24/7. Moves also uses Manitoba's highway data to help route oversized and overweight loads safely and efficiently. I would like to point out, as long as they stay on that route and as long as they are putting true information onto their application. As the department committed to innovative solutions and transparency, MI introduced to the public a new interactive online map that displays approved capital projects and their status in communities across Manitoba. If you haven't gone and looked at it, you should. It's actually really cool, and it's off of Manitoba Infrastructure's website. So we are now moving to being a modern, nimble department. And we've set on 3 goals. 1, economic corridor, which is the perimeter highway. We talk about Winnipeg 1 million. We better have the perimeter ready for when Winnipeg hits 1 million people. We would like to see a freeway status ring circling around the city of Winnipeg. We believe that it is necessary. Modern cities across the world have it, and it is time for Manitoba to get on board. It is our #1 priority. You've probably heard a little bit about it. There's been a little bit of protesting about some of them. We understand that there is definitely displacement and people are being inconvenienced, but it is for safety reasons. The safer we make the perimeter highway, the less safe uncontrolled intersections become. We're going to move to everything either having signalized or bridges, and then starting to move the signalized to overpasses to the point where we will then have freeway status perimeter. #1 and number 75, as a long-term goal, we would like to see them also become freeway status. And in the year to come, next year, you'll hear a little bit more about that. I suspect, Madame Chabot, it won't happen in my lifetime, but we should start planning for it. Let's do this. Let's move Manitoba forward and help our economy as much as we can as Manitoba Infrastructure and Manitoba Heavy. And our last target, our last goal is Manitoba Lake St. Martin Outlet Channel Climate Resiliency Project, which we will be hearing about more over the next months, we hope. Manitoba's construction industry and the Manitoba government share a long and positive working relationship. We've had mostly ups, the occasional down, but always we are very professional, and it's a good working relationship. Each year, infrastructure engineering and construction experts submit candidate projects from their areas for each of the categories. The categories are grading, paving, urban works, special projects, major structures, minor structures, and water infrastructure projects. The projects are then evaluated based on general appearance and workmanship of the final project, adherence to contract specifications and design criteria, complexity of the project, project progression relative to expected working days completion date, partnering between the contractor and contract administered, and the overall adherence to the initial budget. For this construction season, there were 32 projects that were eligible to fit into the categories, and 20 of them were nominated for consideration. On behalf of the Manitoba government and Manitoba Infrastructure, I want to thank Manitoba Heavy Construction Association and staff teams of each company for your passion in this work and for improving ways that we connect and plan together for Manitoba's roadways and water infrastructure. Every year we build more positive, solid, and reliable partnerships. And we will be doing that a little bit later. We have the awards and I'll be presenting those virtually as well. I just want to segue very quickly to allow the construction and engineering services industries time to prepare for another season of designing and building highways, structures, and other projects across the province. The province is releasing the 22-23 advertising schedule for construction, engineering service provider, and material supply tenders. The advertising schedule includes many types of projects, including surfacing, grading, structures, intersection improvements, and culverts. In efforts to modernize, this year, the department has created a more user-friendly advertising schedule that the industry should be pleased with. I'm sure even Chris Lawrence is going to cheer for this one. We're going to listen for him. The schedule can now be found online and can be downloaded. In addition, for ease of navigation, it can also be sorted, viewed by asset type, by region, and by work type. It can be viewed at, we'll just send you the link. I'm not going to read the link. Manitoba's Strategic Infrastructure Plan for 22-23 supports long-term priorities for the province's future, including the Winnipeg 1 million perimeter freeway initiative and the trade and commerce grid to connect trade corridors, ensure safe and efficient movement of goods, and creating employment opportunities for Manitobans, and also our Lake St. Martin Channels project. Construction highlights across the province planned for 22-23 include in the capital region, paving 18.1 km of provincial trunk highway PTH 23 for provincial road 336 to 422. 4 kilometers of twinning, paving including adding passing lanes on PTH 6 from 101 to Grosse Isle. Western region, paving 13 kilometers on PTH 3 from North Junction 3A to North Junction PTH 34. Paving 2.6 kilometers in Dauphin on PTH 5A from Triangle Road to Whitmore Avenue and Whitmore Avenue to 4th Avenue South. And last, and I'm not going to list all of them because there's a lot on there, paving 20.3 km on PTH 5 from 15 kilometers north of PTH 2 to PTH 1. And the list continues. It is a very robust list, and we're trying to put everything on that list. Again, if there's improvements that need to be made, let's work on that. But we think it's a really good list. I still have, there's Northern region. It wasn't the end of the list. There's still more here. We have structures, structure rehabilitation, Burnt Red River, new structure at Drain, 9.9 kilometers south of PTH 68, south of St. Rose-de-Lac. It's quite a substantive list, and we're really pleased to be releasing it. We want to thank all of you and to everyone at Manitoba Heavy for having us here today. Me personally, I enjoy being together with you. What we do as a department and as an industry is just amazing. And I love going for ice cream with the family, and then we accidentally happen to go through a construction zone and just happen to be looking at stuff that's going on, and I explaining it to the family and finding out here from the back seat. Dad, this was actually a construction tour that excellently met with ice cream, right? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you do that. And you take your kids and you say, oh yeah, we're working on that and we're working on that. And all of our families suffer us involved with heavy construction in this province. It's a great industry to be part of. Your president always talks about the return on investment. He's absolutely right in that. We're proud to be partnering with you. We're proud to be part of a province that really values and focuses on the kind of construction that we need to make this province economically successful. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me speak today.
Thank you very much, Minister Schuler. With respect to the donuts, I just want to tell you that Uber must have messed up because we called for that early this morning. Maybe they're in your front office being derailed to purposes other than your benefit. So check there. I do want to say that it's important to acknowledge that under your stewardship, you have made significant transitional changes and have effectively turned many pages in terms of both the department and the relationship that the department / government has with industry. And you know, you've transitioned the size from 5 to 3. You're looking at service delivery model option changes. We're moving to an annual and 3 and hopefully a 5-year program. The strategic planning is very much part and parcel of what you're doing. Tenders are accelerated in terms of the timing and their awards. You have tender-ready projects when and if there is competitive bidding by industry. The economic corridor is important. The perimeter highway improvements, LSMO. So there are very many changes and improvements and very good steps forward that you have introduced. And as Manitobans, we're grateful for you having exercised the power of your elbow to move a government forward in that direction. I do also want to acknowledge that we have a really good relationship with your deputy who has brought a breath of fresh air in terms of reviewing these issues, is open to discussion, doesn't always say yes, we understand that, but the relationship is a very positive one. So thank you, Minister. There are probably at least 1 or 2 questions that
Mr. President,
will be put. Let me begin with LSMO. Oh,
Mr. President, we still have the awards to do.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Your enthusiasm to get the minister grilled by Manitoba Heavy members has to be tempered a little bit. And I also noted in your comments, you haven't mentioned that I'm your favorite minister either. So we'll let you do that in your concluding remarks. Are we ready to go to awards?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we're going to do these virtually, unfortunately. And I've taken a picture with each award and each winner, and they will go out on Twitter as soon as I announce them. The only thing that could be possibly worse than me being alone in the picture holding up your award was me and Chris Lawrence being in the picture. So we decided it would just be me. So grading, I get to open up. And by the way, look, it's got a really nice gold seal on it. So I'm sorry I can't do this and I can't have someone hand this to me in all the fanfare. So the Academy has voted. And they've presented me with this. So this is for grading. And it is bituminous reconstruction on PTH 16. And the winner is, drumroll, Coco Paving Canada Inc., operating as Russell Ready Mix Concrete. Congratulations. And could we please cue the applause? There you go. Coco Paving, congratulations for winning the grading award. So paving, next award, and the Academy has voted. And you can see your award going up live on my Twitter account if you want to have a look at what your award will look like. And so this is for bituminous reconstruction on PTH1. The paving winner is Maple Leaf Construction. Congratulations for winning the award this year. And if you go onto Twitter, the awards are very beautiful and we will be mailing them out to you sometime in the next few days. Urban Works. The Academy has voted. Does that mean that Chris Lawrence is head of the Academy? I guess. So the Urban Works winner is concrete reconstruction, including grade and base on PTH 75. And the winner for the Urban Works Award is Bayview Construction Limited. Congratulations. Job well done. And again, that photo will be going up as we speak. Special projects. So Chris Lawrence and the Academy have voted. So this is for bituminous reconstruction on PTH 34. And the winner this year is Coco Paving Canada Inc., operating as Russell Ready Mix Concrete. Congratulations for special projects winner. The next award is for major structures. And the Academy has chosen, as soon as I get the envelope there. So, major structures winner, structure rehabilitation on PTH 10 at Souris River. MD Steel Construction Limited. cue the applause. Could the Academy please cue the applause? I guess our techie people don't know how to. And these are awards by Manitoba Infrastructure, and they are put forward by all kinds of people. Evidently, Chris Lawrence does not chair the Academy. I've just been told. Wow, that lofty position for just a few moments, right? Minor structures winner for riprap placement at various bridge sites in the vicinity of Brandon. Tri-Wave Construction Limited, congratulations. You will be sent an award shortly. If you want to see what it looks like, it will be on my Twitter account as we speak. And the last award, water management. And what did the Academy vote here? Let's have a look. Electric conversion and upgrades, NAP pump station in Nepal, Manitoba. Trev's Electric Limited, congratulations. Well done to everybody. Frankly, I think all of you are winners. Somebody had to get the final award and the plaque, and they are absolutely beautiful plaques. You can view them all online. I'd like to thank Miranda Dubé from my office for having done just a magnificent job. We'll try to email you a photo to all of you. And thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to close by thanking you, everyone, and stay safe. Have a great winter off. And you know, we've had just a really good year. It was dry, and I think we're you know, hoping for another great year of construction again next year. So thank you all very much. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you, Minister. Of course, you're my favorite minister, and an Academy Award will be presented to you as soon as we get the annual and 5-year. So you're just that one little step away from being an Academy Award winning minister. I understand you do have a few minutes to take some questions. While I'm waiting for them to queue up, the LSMO project is probably one of the most significant projects to come Manitoba's way in a long time, valued at around $550 million, shared between Manitoba and the federal government. It's not moving as quickly as I know the government had hoped, and certainly not as quickly as industry had hoped. Can you give us a quick update on where you think you are with respect to licenses and approvals from the federal government, and when the project might move forward beyond the road that is about to be finished?
Well, thank you very much for that question. And we had a very good relationship with the outgoing federal minister and with his department. Now, unfortunately, the minister has been moved to a different portfolio. And also the lead in his department on this file decided to take the opportunity to retire. So we're working with new people. We're actually quite pleased with the consultation that we've been able to do. What we keep hearing in the media, the consultations have been robust, over 3,000 contacts. Not that all of those are consultation, but a consultation is part of that. And we've gotten some very good traditional knowledge back. So the file is moving. Again, a big project like this does get caught up in the politics, and we all recognize there was a federal election, and then there's that time period, that lag of the political machinations with cabinet shuffles and all of that. That now gets settled down. We'll get back to having regular conversations with the federal government. So it is a climate resiliency project. And, you know, we just went through a year of drought, and 2 years before that, we had a 1 in 1,000 year rain event. Like, now is the time to be building these climate resiliency projects, folks. You know, we don't want to be happening what's happening in British Columbia and then start to try to figure out how to deal with these massive environmental events that are happening. Manitoba has been really proactive over 50, 60 years. We have built all kinds of structures, the floodway, et cetera. This is the last piece that comes out of the 1950 flood, and that is the Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin channels outlet project. It is the last piece that we need to get accomplished. And then we'd have to go back and start updating what we built and get it up to 1 in 1,000 years. So yeah, it's moving ahead. It just, we had to slow down because of the federal election for a while.
Minister, we've had very good discussions with your deputy and her executive team related to the sizing, scoping, and scheduling of the project. You'll remember that the original floodway, the expansion of the floodway, were managed in a way that enabled Manitoba companies to be competitive bidders in that process. It's a position and stance that we have asked your government to embrace for the last of these three major projects, if you will. Can you provide some assurance today that that remains an objective of the provincial government, namely that it is sized, shaped, and scoped and scheduled in a manner that will enable Manitoba companies to be competitive bidders?
You know what, thank you for that question. And we view it as part of our department's mandate that everybody should be able to bid on these projects. And we have to be careful that we don't supersize them. We get it that a hydro dam is in a realm of its own. And those tend to be international conglomerates that build hydro dams simply because of size and scope and the technical kind of knowledge base that you need to build one of those big projects. However, the construction projects in Manitoba outside of a massive hydro dam should be put in such a frame that anybody should be able to bid on them. Again, you have to bid competitively. And if somebody from outside has a better price, then it's got to be not just a better price, it has to also be an equal or better product. So, we do look at both of those. We want to see that Manitoba companies are not kept out of the bidding process simply because of the way we put out the tender. I can speak for myself as minister. That is my direction to the department. That is our government's direction to the department, that we make it in such a way that Manitoba companies are competitive and can bid on these projects. Doesn't mean you get them. It means you should be able to bid on them. And then it's up to you from there on.
I appreciate that very much on behalf of the industry, Minister. Just a reminder to the audience that if you have a question, please use the question icon, not the chat icon. One of the areas where there seems to be an aligning of the stars, which involves the Canadian Construction Association, the Business Council of Canada, Manufacturers and Exporters, the Canadian Chamber, the Winnipeg and Manitoba Chambers, the Urban Development Institute, the Canada West Foundation, is around the notion of a Western Canada Trade Gateway and Corridor Initiative, which picks up on the success of the Asia Pacific, recognizes that Western Canada is really a global supply chain player. Can you indicate the level of support, Minister, that you see potentially for such an initiative? Will the Council of Ministers, can the Council of Ministers of Transportation, of which you are a member, address this at their next meeting? Could this be a topic for the New West Partnership provinces to discuss? And would you, in addition, push to have this matter considered by the Council of the Federation, which Premier Stephenson will chair in Winnipeg in 2023?
Well, and this is something that's been put forward by a lot of different organizations in Manitoba. They would like to see it move forward. We are at the table and we're part of the conversation. I don't think we're quite clear what we mean when we say it, like where we would like to see it move forward. Infrastructure is the way that we as landlocked jurisdictions get our product to market. And yes, we have we have Churchill, but Churchill has its disadvantages. And I think as we look at the environmental focus of the world, to move some product through Churchill is maybe not the most reasonable. So we get back to our highways and our airports and our railways. So we want to be at the table. We think this is a good initiative. We've always been an active player when it comes to Westac, for instance, and this is sort of a bit of a shoot off from Westac. And we think there's merit in this. It is probably something that will have to be taken up at a table a little bit higher up the pay scale from the one that sits in my office. But we are certainly interested in what's coming out of this, and we are supportive of infrastructure investment in the West. Folks, we're landlocked. I mean, I know we have Churchill, but there is only so much we can send out of Churchill, and we have to get our product to market. And, you know, you look at what's happened in British Columbia right now with the terrible floods, and you've seen the infrastructure damage. You know, that's going to, you've seen newspaper articles, that's going to hurt agriculture if we can't get grain onto the railways and we can't get our product onto the highways because there are like massive wipeouts of infrastructure. You know, we have to always look at the redundancy, right? So for instance, for us, Highway 75 going south, we're also looking at Highway 59 of our redundancy built in, that if one goes, we always have a highway going south. Well, we have to also look at that going east-west. And we want to be part of these conversations, yes.
Minister, thank you for that. I can assure you that the business community in this province, regionally across the 4 Western provinces, and stakeholders nationally will be intensifying their discussions at the 2 levels of government, provincial and federal. As you know, trade is such an important part of Canada's economy. It's an important part of Manitoba's economy, and the need to effectively, efficiently move product to and market sustains your quality of life. So that is a topic that I'm sure you will hear more of as we move forward. I've noted that we have a number of questions on the chat line, but they've been covered by the questions that I put. So Minister, you're lucky today. The only questions you've had to deal with are from me, and I do want to thank you for the excellent cooperation. We have a great relationship. We're able to phone one another, agree sometimes, disagree other times, but always have a very respectful and cordial relationship. And that augurs well for all of the work that remains to be done going forward. So yes, you are my favorite minister. You're just a little bit away from getting that Academy Award. Work on it, and hopefully by next year, we'll be able to present you with that Golden Globe Award. So with that, Minister, thank you very, very much for your leadership, for your work, for sharing with us your views on the importance of investing in Manitoba's transportation system and the connection that it has to our economy and quality of life, and really appreciate this work. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we move on now to the next portion of the program. The Manitoba Heavy Construction Association is a long-standing member of the Canadian Construction Association and is active at that level. And that's evidenced in part by historical presence. For example, Neil Wither, Don Whitmore, and Barry Brown, each a past chair of the MHCA, served as chairs of the Canadian Construction Association and did so with distinction. And many of Manitoba delegates, Manitoba Heavy delegates to the CCA board have served on its executive committees, led significant standing committees, including TRIP Canada, which was an idea born in Manitoba, the Civil Infrastructure Council, and others. The CCA is indispensable to our industry across this country. It is the one single voice that speaks on behalf of heavy civil, on behalf of ICI. It represents more than 21,000 construction companies across this country, and for roughly 65 local construction associations. It's therefore important, we believe, for you to have an opportunity to hear directly from the CCA on its activities and what its priorities are as we head into 22 and beyond. And to that end, I am very pleased that joining us today are Ray Bassett, Chair of the Canadian Construction Association, and Mary Van Buren, President of the CCA, to present their report. And I can tell you unequivocally that our access to each of them and to the board is direct. Nicole Chabot, our board chair, is a member of the board of directors of the CCA. The CCA is very responsive and attentive to the needs of the heavy construction industry in the context of our national needs. So with that introduction, I'm very pleased to welcome Ray Bassett, Chair and Mary Van Buren, President of the Canadian Construction Association.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chris, for that kind introduction. One of the most important aspects of our role at the CCA is to listen to what is so important to our members across Canada, including, of course, Manitoba. And it's something we truly value. We're also delighted to be sharing in your celebration of the outstanding members. And so sincere congratulations to each one of you on your success today. As you said, Chris, volunteers are the lifeblood of both of our associations, and certainly we really appreciate Nicole's service on our board, yourself on the National Advisory Council Civil, and of course Jack Mazeton. And I've seen that we also have several participants on the call who have been past board members or volunteers at CCA, and so you can rest assured that all of these volunteers bring their enthusiasm, their expertise, and their energy to make sure that the CCA is reflecting what is important to you. And one of the initiatives that has been talked about today is the Western Canada Initiative. And Ray will speak more to that. And we're really pleased to be part of building that momentum. And we are seeing some traction on getting interest in funding and increasing funding to that very important initiative. So Ray will speak more to that in a minute. And I think this is just one great example of how the CCA, together with our partner associations, can really start to move the dial. So I'd now like to invite Ray Bassett, who will speak to you about more of our priorities. And Rod Gilbert is also with us today, our Senior Vice President of Procurement and Best Practices, if you have any questions regarding advocacy or any of our initiatives. So Ray, over to you.
Well, thank you, Mary. And thanks to Nicole and Chris and the board of the MHCA for allowing us to participate in this event this morning. It was fantastic to hear the interaction and the rapport that you've got, Chris, and the association with Minister Schuler. I'm sure it's the envy of many other associations to have the sort of candor that you've developed. So I bring greetings to you from 20 or 21,000 firms and colleagues across the country. It's together with the MHCA and other associations. You are the CCA. So I'm bringing greetings from really your colleagues to you today. I like to think in images, and I think of the CCA as a bit of a sort of series of interlocking gears. There are companies, there are individuals, there are stakeholders, there are the local associations and the CCA staff, and the gears lock together and turn the engine and such that it's the whole is greater than the sum of those parts. So we've, as you may know, we have a board of 20. There are 5 national advisory councils. Chris sits on one with 75 seats that advise the board and provide sector-specific input. We've got a professional staff of 20, and then, as Chris mentioned, the 20,000+ members. So it's a large organization. To ask, what does CCA do? Well, it's a bit of a loaded question. It does a lot, right? And when you think of the broad spectrum. So we'll spend just a few minutes today highlighting some. You'll see a few there on the screen, but I'd like to camp out on a couple specifically as we go. So Mary, if you'd just advance the slide, please. We've talked about the engagement with the Government of Canada, and that clearly is a primary advocacy focus. As Nicole mentioned in her opening remarks, if advocacy locally is really your primary reason, advocacy federally is the CCA's reason for existing, and that we take that collective voice to government. So a good example of this and the strengthening of that voice from the CCA was in the National Infrastructure Assessment that was launched this spring by Infrastructure Canada, and many of you will have seen this. It was a market sounding with some teasers from the Government of Canada on how it might look forward to a 25 or a 30-year infrastructure strategic investment planning process. And so it was a very short cycle to sound the market, to obtain feedback from members, from other associations and stakeholders. Very, very short time frame. The CCA with MHCA and many others was able to put together a proposal that outlined a new vision for how nationally the strategic infrastructure investment can be considered and looked at. And what I'm quite proud of actually is if Mary, if you just click one more, you'll see that there were over 60 endorsements. And this, again, I can't say enough how compressed the time frame was. So in a very, very tight time frame, the industry was able to collaborate, come together, and endorse this vision that was presented as part of the industry's response to this request from Infrastructure Canada. So very, very powerful opportunity for our industry to express the vision that we all need to see. If I'll spend just a couple of minutes on the key elements of that, because I think it's important to all of us. It's a long term, and to borrow the phrase from Minister Schuler, I love the department of the day after tomorrow. So this is sort of the vision for the day after tomorrow going forward. There's a couple of key pieces that we've collectively advocated. One is the idea of creating a non-political and apolitical advisory council. We've called it a Canadian Strategic Infrastructure Council, but something that is not tied to the electoral cycle, that can conduct research, provide independent advice to government on how the many facets of infrastructure investment integrate and can guide funding and investment decisions. And we just heard Minister Schuler in his discussion with Chris talking about some of the challenges that you can see between federal and provincial funding when the funding mechanism, the approval process, the criteria can get quite gummed up. And so, the vision that we've expressed in this document really is to say, why don't we change the funding model? So where you've got federal dollars contributing to regional and local infrastructure, consider having the federal government set criteria through the vision, evaluate a program, approve the program, but leave and fund the program, but leave the decisions at a project level in the local jurisdiction where the priorities are clearer, much closer to the ground and the action. So we think that kind of a vision, it's risky, but I think we think that the outcome is far more manageable, and it may avoid some of the delays that we've seen. We've also advocated for a far more collaborative, agile approach to procurement. Fair and transparent is only part of the issue, but we're talking about physical infrastructure, and we've heard our federal government perhaps drift on this, where infrastructure begins to get a little wider application, and other things that we don't think of as physical trade enabling infrastructure get thrown in the basket and funded broadly. So we're advocating that we resist that urge. These things are all very important, but as Chris and others have said today, getting the economic engine going through trade enabling infrastructure, this is what generates the wealth and the financial capacity to invest in the other programs. So that's a sort of a quick flyby. It was very gratifying to see later in the summer, government published a summary of what they had heard from industry on this process, and nearly all of the elements of the CCA's vision were incorporated into that go forward document. So we're quite hopeful that this will have an impact for the day after tomorrow, as Minister Schuler said. Another good example of collaborating with industry, and as Chris said, the importance of the single voice. There are many studies, and Nicole mentioned this in her opening remarks, that $1 of investment in infrastructure leads to around $3 in GDP output. This is a huge return, and that accelerator effect is well known. So we've in this past election cycle, we did deploy a digital advocacy tool, it was quite simple, really. I was able to do it myself, and I'm not particularly good with my iPhone, but it allows individual people, voters, right, as opposed to just association voices. These are individual people that are voting in a constituency to send letters, a digital letter, and outlining priorities to their local MPs. And it's a very powerful tool. We'll get better at this over time, but it's a good example of how we can network together and then take a single unified message, deliver it powerfully, not just from association voices, but from the ground up. And governments do listen to this. And so it was quite we thought it was a successful campaign, something that we'll work on going forward. So your Premier in her comments reflected on what's happening in BC, and I know many of us have a family or colleagues in kind of dealing with that crisis, and it's just one of several that have happened out there. So it's not surprising CCA and the industry is looking at this. Part of the process that we've gone through is to produce the study that you see there. It's available on the website, and it provides guidance to government on resiliency, sustainability, and some things that need to be considered frankly, in the strategy of the national infrastructure investment piece. These things will all lock together as we go. So this report on sustainability, strength and resiliency, and also in research and development are just good examples of the research and policy development that's going on inside the CCA on your behalf and with many of the members. So if we advance, Mary, we've talked a little bit, and it's great to hear the discussion today and the support from your minister and local government for this. But I'd just like to acknowledge the diligence and the persistent work of the MHCA and Chris and many others on advancing this concept of the Western Canada Trade Gateway and Corridor Initiative. In September, many of you will know, we were very proud as CCA to participate with the EDC, Export Development Canada, and the Western Canada Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. And we jointly hosted an online roundtable. Leaders from many sectors, government, think tanks. We had many influential voices at that table. A first step, to be sure, but a first step that I was able to participate, and it was quite revealing. There's an enormous amount of energy, and as Chris said in his questions to the minister, a lot of ground up industry support for this kind of a thing. And from the CCA's perspective, as sort of a national vision, we're hugely supportive of this and very proud to be part of however we can assist you locally and regionally on this. But it's also clearly part of a question that it needs to be addressed in the national strategic infrastructure plan, which is where do these gateways and corridors fit in other regions? So it's very, very important in Western Canada, but also in the East and in other places. So there's challenges regionally, and so we're very, very strongly supportive of this kind of a thing and doing everything we can to contribute to the success of that. The infrastructure report card is something that many of you have seen. It hasn't been done recently, and I think COVID is not helping, but it would likely be renewed shortly. But it's a good example of research and collaborative policy thought that can be done when you have a national voice where you can bring the parties together. And these sorts of reports that, I won't go through the details of what this shows, except to say that infrastructure in the country is quite old and in very, very poor condition, and reinvestments necessary. These things are almost givens now. But this sort of research underpins the policy and the advocacy that we do. It can be detailed and tedious work, and I'm sure few of you have actually read every word of this. But these things are critical to underpin the policy and give legitimacy to the advocacy that we do. So very, very happy as CCA to be part of these kinds of initiatives. So to close these brief remarks, I'd just like to reiterate again, thank Chris for his kind comments earlier on the importance of CCA as a voice, and I'm very proud to have my brief term following many other eminent people in stewarding this thing forward. But as a national forum, the CCA is a place where we can come together, I think, through different sectors and regions and own the message, control the message, and really have our most effective influence on policymakers and government. And we're absolutely committed, as Mary said, through the staff and the volunteers, committed to collaborating with local associations and members across the country to really bring that voice together and make it as clear and focused as we can. We can't do everything, but the things we can do very, very well together. And so we're very proud of that. So finally, as I said, there's 21,000 firms in the family, 1.5 million Canadians working, 7.5% of GDP. You know some of these numbers. It's a very powerful voice that you have, and I say you have. It's not a we, it's a you. You are the CCA through your membership, and we thank you for that, for being members and supporting it so strongly. So it's been a pleasure to be here and to work so closely, especially this year during my term with Chris and the MHCA. Just a quick advertorial. You may have seen the CCA annual conference has been shifted. We're going to be in Vancouver next March 8 to 11 at a beautiful new facility. So I would encourage you to register early and come out in person if you're comfortable, and support the industry and start to experience some of that magic that I like to think of as the CCA. So again, thank you to the board and to Nicole and Chris for inviting us to participate. And I wish you the very best in the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray and Mary. As I said in the introduction, to us, the CCA is an indispensable voice at the national level, without which we would have no access to influence the shaping of federal policy. So we are very much obliged for the opportunity of working with you on so many files. And as you noted, it's a loaded question to ask what does the CCA do? And your presentation was barely a snippet of the topics that you do cover. I think it's important for our audience to know that I do have the opportunity of, on a regular and frequent basis, Mary perhaps would rather it not be as frequent, to give her a call and say, what's happening here? Can we do this? What about that? And although Rod Gilbert is present today, but not presenting, Rod is a key player in the shaping and moving of industry positions through his very effective advocacy at the national level. And so we very much appreciate not only his participation, but his daily attention to detail and the shaping and evolution of federal policy. So collectively, we thank the three of you. We thank the CCA for its ongoing leadership, and we look forward to your continued success, because that then translates into our success. So on behalf of everyone at Manitoba Heavy Construction, the board chair, Nicole Chabot, our board of directors and members, thank you very much for your really good work on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chris.
Before we move on to the next portion of the program, I think it's important to once more reflect on the importance of the MI Awards. It is an opportunity for industry to be acknowledged for the excellence with which it delivers projects. It is an opportunity for the competitiveness, not only to evidence itself in the building of assets upon which we rely, but it's an opportunity for government to publicly acknowledge the excellence with which the projects are built. So certainly on behalf of Nicole Chabot, our board, myself and the entire membership, a sincere congratulations to each of the winners. You are deserving winners. We're proud that you are winners. We're proud of all of the work that is done by our industry, and we're grateful that we have an ongoing opportunity for MI to publicly acknowledge that work of excellence by our industry in the categories which have resulted in awards and the presentations. Work Safely is a very important part of what the association does. We launched that program back in 1989. It has evolved and matured over those 30 plus years. It provides, amongst other things, key workplace safety education and training, including the core certification program. It is designed to enable our industry to prevent or mitigate the occurrence of frequency, severity, and duration of claims within our workplace incidents, to keep our employees safe. Its success is illustrated not just by the industry's acceptance of it, which it is, but the significantly reduced numbers of claims and the continuous trend lines pointing down in the right direction, which has directly led to WCB rebates and reduced WCB premiums. Ours is also one of two programs, CSAMS being the other, upon which the WCB modeled the introduction of the industry-based safety programs through Safe Work Manitoba. So I'm very pleased to welcome to the podium now the program director of our Work Safely program, Don Hurst, to present his report. Don?
Thank you, Chris, and good morning. I'm pleased to present my 2021 report on the Work Safely Education and Training Program. I've provided a slide which you'll see on the screen during the presentation, which outlines the highlights of the 2021 year in review and the look forward to priorities for 2022. So to begin with, and to echo Chris's comments, the investments in safety by the industry have resulted in significant and sustained, importantly, returns to our companies. You know, the overall injury rates have declined by 1/3 over 5 years, and we've achieved significantly lower compensation rates for our companies over that same period. These two improvements, along with the introduction of the prevention rebate, which is provided specifically to core companies, have led to savings to the industry of approximately $2 million annually in comparison to 5 years ago. Like other industries, we've had to respond to the pandemic, and again, investments in safety by our industry have enabled our industry to respond well and to minimize disruptions due to the pandemic. One of the key reasons our industry's been able to work throughout the pandemic is the experience and the safety and health discipline developed by our companies over years through their implementation of practices and procedures in the core program and now dealing with the pandemic. This has shown that the core program works for our companies. Throughout the year, we've continued to focus on our key goals. Strengthening communication with our clients is a key element of the strategic plan. In addition to newsletters, e-news, which reach all our clients, our staff consistently make one-on-one contact each quarter with close to 2/3 of our client base each quarter to deliver audit services and provide advice. We've had to adapt to enhance our services and training through the pandemic. Our challenges have meant that much of our contact, at least early on, has been through virtual or digital means. But we've made adjustments to ensure that we can now deliver in-class services, training, safely, whether that be at the MHCA offices or at alternate locations, including clients for in-house training. We've delivered over 120 courses in 2022. And in fact, over the next 2 weeks, we're delivering winter roads training to approximately 100 participants from Northern Manitoba communities. We've added e-learning options and learned that distance learning through video conferencing can benefit many of our remote clients, allowing them enhanced access. And we've worked on growing our future workforce through partnerships with the River East Transcona and Seven Oaks School Divisions to deliver an introduction to heavy construction industry training program to high school and mature students. And despite the challenges of the pandemic, we've grown the program to 336 core certified companies, covering over 75% of our workforce. And we've added 14 new companies certified in 2021. Looking ahead to 2022, we are committed to our strategic plan. Firstly, in growing the program, our targets will of course include focusing on new companies in the heavy construction sector, companies in snow removal and waste management, and municipalities. We want to promote the Work Safely program by promoting the success our companies have achieved in improving safety in our industry, diversity in our workforce, and job opportunities in our industry to our future workforce. We'll be working with our client companies and our partners like Safe Work Manitoba to promote the accomplishments and the brand of the MHCA's Work Safely program. We'll also continue to push for the provincial government to make core certification a mandatory bidding requirement for all construction contracts, regardless of value. In terms of updating and enhancing services, Work Safely will be working with the Canadian Federation of Construction Safety Associations to update the core program and improve the harmonization of the program across jurisdictions. We'll be working with other industry-based safety programs to promote practical approaches to enhanced safety certification, injury prevention, and safety regulation. We'll be continuing to update our training and strengthening our services to improve training through the use of digital tools and resources, including adding training options through e-learning. We will continue to emphasize our one-on-one contact with clients, approach innovation through technology, and promote the program to new clients. In promoting diversity and workforce development, we will engage with the Indigenous communities and other partners and expand the reach of our safety and workforce training with Indigenous people and communities. We'll continue to assist partners such as the Seven Oaks School Division to deliver introductory training to our potential workforce. We'll continue to work on developing similar programs with other schools such as the Indigenous-based Southeast Collegiate in Winnipeg. And then finally, we will be working with the WCB to develop return to work training to help our companies improve disability management. Lastly, before closing, I want to recognize our Work Safely Safety Leader Award recipient for 2021. Jared Griffiths from Maple Leaf Construction. This award recognizes the individual who demonstrates outstanding achievement and commitment to the pursuit of safety in their company and in our industry. So congratulations, Jared. In closing, I want to thank the staff at the MHCA and the Work Safely program for all their hard work and dedication throughout the year. And of course, we look forward to working hard to help you all work safely and stay healthy in 2022. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. We're going to move on now to the MHCA awards presentation. And however, before I do so, I would like to acknowledge, and this was mentioned earlier, that this is Chris's 30th year with Manitoba Heavy Construction Association as president. A very big anniversary, and may I say it's a remarkable record of service, Chris. And on behalf of the board of directors and the full membership, you have our sincere congratulations and thanks for all you have done and all that you continue to do on behalf of the association, the heavy construction industry, and for your service to the community and province. So thank you very kindly for that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
We'll now move into our years of service awards. And starting first with our 10 years of service companies, we have Arthur J. Gallagher Canada Group, Atco Structures and Logistics Limited, Avenue 4 Communications Group, B&B Schmidtke Trucking, Barkman's Cartage Limited, Bill W. Friesen and Sons, Cook Brothers Cartage Limited, Hunter Trucking, K. Kilford Construction, King Services, Moncrief Construction Limited, Morrison Hirschfield Limited, Nishikshawaweshki Construction LP. I'm so sorry, I didn't practice that one beforehand. TTES Consulting Inc., Tim's Limited, Ready Mix of Dauphin, Western Asphalt Products, and Whitford Paving. Now, I'd like to move on to those companies who have been part of MHCA for 25 years, who include Assiniboine Injections Limited, Brock White Canada ULC, Mid Canada Hydro Seeding, and Sigfuson Northern Limited. Our 35 years of service companies include Hub International Limited, IPEX Inc., Western Financial Group, Insurance Solutions, sorry. And now moving on to 40 years of service companies, Crown Pipeline Limited, and Suncor Energy. And finally, congratulations to A. Burnett Limited and Beaver Sewer and Water Services Limited for celebrating 50 years of service with Manitoba Heavy Construction Association. Well done. I would now like to move on to our new members who we welcome most heartily if you're joining us today for the first time. Through a trying year, the MHCA has seen 28 new companies join. And those companies include AD Hanslip Limited, ADS Canada Inc., Affiliated Financial Services, Anphobis Construction Limited, Applied Industrial Technologies, Brodsky Construction, Can White Sands Corporation, Crane and Timber Inc., Dominion Divers Marine Contractors, EWF Electrical, Falcon Equipment, Fox Lake Construction, Haywood Concrete Products, J. Ross Construction and Landscaping, J.A. Robinson Pump Service, M.A. Ironworks Inc., Manitoba Environmental Industries Association, MWG Apparel Corporation, Nickel Ventures, North Forge Technology Exchange, North Manitoba Sector Council, Penco Construction Canada, Penner Underground Limited, Red River College, RPM Hydro Excavation, Timo Enterprises, True Grit Sand and Gravel, and Vicar Community Chevrolet. And now at this time, I would like to turn our attention to a very deserved salute to a longstanding and dedicated board member of the MHCA Board of Directors. Henry Borger has announced his retirement from the board, and we're sad to see Henry leave. I think everyone here, and certainly anyone who's had the opportunity to sit at the board with Henry, will share this sentiment. Henry has served the MHCA and our industry commendably and with distinction for over 17 years, joining the board of directors in 2004. His record of engagement with the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association and at national level with the Canadian Construction Association speaks for itself. In his history of service, Henry has served as a member on the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association's Board of Directors from 2004 to 2021, chair of the MHCA Board of Directors from 2013 to 2014, treasurer on the MHCA Board of Directors, chair for the City of Winnipeg Committee in 2006, 2007, and again in 2016 and 2017, Secretary Treasurer of the Western Canadian Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association from 2013 to 2017. Henry joined the Canadian Construction Association in 2012 as a regional director at large for Manitoba. From 2014 to 2016, he was the vice chair of the Civil Infrastructure Council. And from 2016 to 2020, Henry was an executive committee member and chair of the Civil Infrastructure Council. Beyond the distinction of those positions, Henry's voice was heard and his astute advice noted at any meeting among industry representatives, and especially in discussions in senior political offices at all levels. We are in his debt for and will sorely miss his leadership and dedication to the association and the heavy construction industry. From all of your board colleagues, the Manitoba Heavy Construction Association members and staff, Henry, a sincere thank you and best wishes.
Thank you very much, Nicole. I too would very much like to add my personal thanks to Henry for his many, many valuable contributions to our association at the provincial, regional, and national levels. Nicole, you have provided a very good summary highlighting Henry's service to our industry. And I must tell you, Henry, it's been a pleasure to watch you, to listen to you, and to learn from you. That concludes this morning's program. Before we move into the AGM, I would again like to thank the sponsors of this morning's awards presentation, Michael Byrne from Aon Reed Stenhouse and Alex Robinson from Graham Construction. A thank you to our presenters, our guests, the city councilors who joined us, the MLAs who joined us this morning. The MHCA AGM portion of this webinar is, as you would know, for MHCA members only. And so we'll take a 5-minute pause to allow non-members to sign out and for the AGM to continue. And with that, I thank everyone for your participation at the MHCA Awards breakfast and presentation, minus sadly the breakfast, but for the presentations, and we'll resume momentarily with convening of the annual general meeting. Thank you very much.